pasión funesta que de mí se apodera y a mi corazón aterra cruel y lo confunde.
In the afternoon on Christmas Eve, 1887, someone from the Maltman and Ivers law office in the Grand Opera House block at First and Main walked up the hill to Broadway and Temple and the county recorder's office on the first floor of the old county courthouse to register the Washington Heights tract. Washington Heights is bounded by Reservoir Street to the north, Waterloo Street to the west, Marathon to the south, and Alvarado to the east. Not yet known as Sunset Boulevard, their main thoroughfare took the name of the new park down the road, Elysian Park Avenue. The hills northwest of downtown had been developing at a rapid pace. In 1886, Angelino Heights had been laid out along the Temple Street Railway, Elysian Park had been created from the Rock Quarry Hills, and construction had begun on the Ostrich Farm Railway, which by the end of 1887 would be carrying potential customers through the middle of the Washington Heights tract, showing off its gentle slope and its view of Reservoir No. 4, soon to become Echo Park Lake. The relatively gentle slope of Washington Heights, as well as its proximity to the railway, encouraged settlement, resulting in a high concentration of residences built between 1890 and 1915. The residential district above Sunset Boulevard was the home of many influential Angelinos who would shape the history of Los Angeles, along with the built environment of Washington Heights. Oliver Ivers, one of the founders of Washington Heights, was a lawyer turned oil man who had founded Unical. In 1887, he built a house on the north side of the street that bore his name. Now known as Elsinore Street, it contains a number of restored fourplexes and bungalows from the early 1910s. And at the far end of Elsinore is the house that is believed to be the one that Oliver Ivers built in 1887, and the oldest building in Washington Heights. 2 doors up is this yellow Victorian, built around 1895, and the longtime home of Harry Ellington Brooke, an Englishman who had come to Los Angeles by way of the Arizona gold mines. He landed at the editorial desk of the LA Times, working alongside Harrison Gray Otis in the 1880s and 90s, as well as compiling the booster publication, The Land of Sunshine, to represent Southern California at the 1893 World's Fair. Harry Brooke would have the first health column in the LA Times, and when he wasn't advising his readers that tuberculosis was not contagious, he was advising them that it was time to change their underwear. Across the street from Brooke is the house where Detective Thomas Rico, LAPD, sweated out his trial on corruption charges in 1910. Although Detective Rico had been collecting a second paycheck from the Mexican embassy while chasing the anarchist revolutionary Ricardo Flores Magón across Los Angeles, he was found innocent. Down the hill from Washington Heights is this fourplex on the other side of Reservoir. Although not technically in Washington Heights, this was where a chiropractor from Arkansas and his aging mother were living when she went downtown to get the permits to build a moving picture theater in the heart of Washington Heights. Before it was the Ramona, before it was Mohawk Bend, it was known as the Creation Theater. October of 1914 saw Republican candidates for state assembly gathering to rouse the masses, and March of 1916 saw Lent services being held at the Creation Theater. In 1919, they extended the stage by 7 feet to accommodate the Wallace School of Dramatic Arts. Chester Conklin of the Keystone Cops, their most famous graduate. Like the movie theater, most of the commercial district was built in the teens and the 20s by people who lived in the surrounding neighborhood. Pizza Buona, La Popular, and Hit Bargain were all built in the early to mid-teens. The age of these buildings is concealed behind numerous alterations, including the plastic signage and paneling, but is revealed by a glance at the sides and rear of the buildings. The building housing Wells Antiques and the brick building across the street and the American Apparel building were all built in 1922 or 1923. This Zigzag Moderne, recently renovated by PETA, was built in 1930 as a Chevrolet dealership by the Austin Company. The oldest commercial building in the Washington Heights business district is the Canine Loft, which seems to have reached its modern form somewhere around 1907, when an existing building was added upon to make the cash supply store. But a closer look reveals a door frame of a long-forgotten business. And the wooden planks along the sides and the rear harken back to the area's Wild West roots. From Sunset Boulevard in Washington Heights, one can see the semi-rural 19th century of old Los Angeles, side by side with the urbanized modernity of the 20th century and the modern metropolis that Los Angeles would grow into. A concerted effort to strip away the paneling and the stucco would uncover the history of Sunset Boulevard and the city of Los Angeles, and maybe even transport future generations of Angelinos back in time to the birth of modern Los Angeles.